Welcome to the show, Josh. I know
Appreciate it.
I know you're the CEO and founder of Ruskin Consulting, and you spend a lot of time in the agency world. Could you share a little bit about yourself, your company, and your journey to this point?
Definitely. So I started 2012, and I started with just trying to. Well, first I started before that a computer repair company. I was into computers. I knew some programming, so I worked for a company, four quarters computer, something like that, in Marin County. And just like I think like a lot of other people that start off as an employee that eventually become a business owner, I felt at the time my boss wasn't really doing all the things that they could do, and I thought I could do a better job. But I knew a narrow version of what he did. I didn't know, accounting, sales. I was just doing. I knew the product, or the service, right? Fixing computers. I knew that, but I didn't know like the umbrella of a business. And so while doing that computer repair company, I learned online marketing. I tried hiring a few agencies, a few freelancers, and ultimately I just said, I got to do it myself. I got to learn it myself. And I assumed I would eventually hire someone else. I just needed to be a little more managerial on it. But I found I really liked, in particular, that time, Google ads and Bing ads. It was very logical. It felt a little bit like a computer game without the pretty graphics, but kind of like, I like Civilization, I like chess, I like Go. It kind of reminded me of like a board game. You see numbers, you see data, and you got to make like smart decisions based on the metrics you're getting. And so, although there was no pretty graphics and all the other stuff you like in video games, to me it felt like a video game. And so I got really into it. I was really excited, and I eventually realized that computer repair business was like a nightmare. I made it successful, but the best times to run computer repair is before work, after work, and on weekends. And so at the end of it, I realized I didn't have a life. I was just like, I did this, but I built myself a prison. This is not the life I want to live. I don't know why I built this business. Like, I made it successful. Like, I tried so hard to make it work, and I realized I built myself hell. And so I'm like, I'm out. I'm done. I just gave it to my business partner, and I started doing online marketing for an agency in web design. So I was doing online marketing for them, and then while working at these agencies, I was also building out my own client list. Start with Craigslist, another one that might help any viewers out there that want to kind of jump into this. Google gives grants to nonprofits for $10,000 a month in free advertising if you're a 501(c)(3). And so once I heard that, and this is a little bit of an old nugget. A lot of nonprofits still don't know about it, but a lot of the um, a lot of them now know about it, but back then no one knew about it. Like even big companies didn't know, and so I just got on the phone and dialed. I think it was like Gold Star that had a directory of nonprofits, and so I just got on the phone and dialed. And so I worked at Marin Web Design. I eventually worked at Continental Western Corporation. And then finally, I just said, F it. Like, I have a big client base. I can do this on my own. I did it on my own. And then I met one of my clients, flood repair company. I said, hey, your landing pages are terrible. So I got into talking to his developer, and the developer's like, listen, I'm not a designer. I'm a developer. I need you to start doing wireframes. So I drove some, before I even knew what wireframes were, I took a piece of graph paper and started just drawing what I wanted the landing page to look like for ads. So he developed it. I created a relationship with him, realized that he actually had a company in the Philippines with a bunch of Philippine employees. And he said, hey, don't be like, freelancer Joshua. Start a real company. And so I was like, okay. And so he convinced me to fly to the Philippines. I lived in the Philippines for a little over 3 years. And I can get more details about that if you're curious. But yeah, so that's kind of how I started. I grew it up from there, and now I've got a full-on agency.
Wow. So you've seen these agencies change, or agencies change over time,
Yes.
as you've just been talking about. Thinking about, those trends, what's happened recently, and what's your perspective on what's going to happen with agencies?
AI is the big thing that's happening recently. I think that AI is sort of like beginning stages of the internet, that either you're in it and you're gonna do well, or you're gonna, if you're not adapting to the internet, adapting to being online, and then now adapting to AI, eventually I think majority chance are going to be squeezed out and have to,
Mhm.
switch verticals or your business will go under. I think it's one of those stages, kind of like early typewriters, like we talked about earlier. When the typewriter first came out, a lot of people got out of business because it made people more efficient. And so the agencies are going to be a lot more efficient, but right now there's too many of them. And so I have seen agencies have to pivot and go in a different direction. And other agencies I know are kind of struggling. I think it's a little bit difficult to have an agency right now, but I think in the next 2 years, we're going to see a mass shrinkage of agencies in the market, and I think we're going to, up to half, I think, are going to be out of business in 2 years, sadly.
Do you think there's any specific element of the agency world that's going to be reshaped or reformed faster than another part?
Yeah, so for example, Google's going to be putting more and more into automation. The platforms in general are going to get more and more automated. There's more and more data. There's going to be more and more high level decisions and less low level decisions. Like back in the day
Hmm.
when you had to do bidding on keywords, those used to be all manual. I remember the day when every keyword had to have a bid. Now none of it's manual. All of
Yeah.
it's essentially tied to algorithms, tied to AI. If it's not your AI, you're not going to, whatever Google uses internally. We use, Claude, ChatGPT, Grok. But no matter if you're using it or the platforms are using it, AI is taking over.
Yeah. And so with all this pivoting, you actually mentioned, VAs. Do you think they're also going to be a big impactor? Using, virtual assistants, offshoring or using those virtual assistants along with AI. Do you think that's going to have
I
a
think more
big
people are going to,
impact?
funny enough, probably use. I think VAs are going to be on the rise. I
Yeah.
think that someone that knows a little bit of, because a lot of these, at least in America, we've got a bunch of baby boomers that own these businesses that want to retire, and oftentimes the kids that maybe it was a family business for generations. We're finding that kids aren't really taking their parents' businesses anymore. That and it's probably a good thing, right? People are following their passions. And right now, there's more opportunity to follow your passion than ever before. And especially with online, you can find jobs anywhere and it's easier to move. But we're finding that these businesses are generally not being bought or not being acquired by their children. So I think there's going to be, a whole bunch of room there. And I think that again, to survive, you're going to need to kind
Mm.
of be on this AI train. I don't think it's just agencies. I think it's just like internet worldwide. Every service, every product is going to have to start using AI. And so I think these VAs, if they get even a little bit of AI experience, it's a little bit of like, hey, I can use ChatGPT to write emails. I can get these reports out. I can create invoices really fast. I think that some of these old people that don't want to learn, like I'll give you an example. My uncle refuses to write emails. He was a really big real estate agent and he had his assistant print the email. He would hand write an answer, and she would type out that email back and send. And so I think that there's some people like that, and he's retired, so
Mm.
he's beyond this now. But I think if he was still in business now, he would have a VA would be good for him to kind of jump in and maybe even send him like, hey, print this is what I'm going to respond. Before you even think about responding, here's what I would say based on ChatGPT that I trained around your old emails. I trained ChatGPT. I sent them 500 of the emails you have. So ChatGPT knows how to write in your words, and now just all you have to do is QA and give me the thumbs up. No more you writing anything. Just give me the thumbs up. I press send. I think there's a lot of things like that that VAs are going to have a really
Mm.
nice time getting into these cool fields.
Absolutely. So, do you think that AI is going to optimize business, or do you think it's actually going to force new business models to emerge then?
I think it's mostly going to optimize. I'm sure there's more
Hmm.
business models to be done, but I think it's just kind of the internet. Like, I don't think the internet necessarily changed how plumbers worked, but it changed how plumbers like advertised, marketed, like
Got you.
reached. And so I think it's going to change what business is done to a large degree, but um, the day
It's
to
going to.
day. And I mean, there's a few things. I guess AI, the two ones that would be terrifying for Americans, I find, is truck driving and like a cashier. Those two are very easy for AI to do. And right now, for Americans, the number one job for men is some sort of transportation job. So bus driver, truck driver, taxi, Uber. And I think those are going to all be gone in a, who fully knows? I think it could be gone now, but everyone wants to make sure this is a very scary thing for AI. Let's say that people move slower, 10, 15 years for Congress to approve this. But at some point, I think we're going to have a situation where self-driving cars and trucks, when it's like 100 times safer statistically than a person driving, I think they're going to start being mandates that, hey, if you
Mm.
want to use these freeways, you have to turn on self-driving, that you're a risk for everyone else, um,
If you're
if you
not,
don't have it. And so what
yeah,
happens to those jobs? What happens to those guys? Well,
yeah. So
learn to code, right?
it's going to be very, very different.
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to change. So, with all these changes and all these differences, do you think it's going to make it even more easy for smaller businesses to compete with larger enterprises?
Yes. So you can start a
Mm.
business and as a sole proprietor, and you have a lot more power than these old businesses that aren't using AI. AI, and it's getting better and better. And I best of my memory, I remember Sam Altman had an interview and he's talking about how AI is now better than like the top tier level of scientists. They can do like really complex scientific work. It takes AI a little bit of time. So he said that's an
Mhm.
issue with it, but it can perform better than the like 80 or 90% of people in the top of their field in basically every field. And that's where we're at now. And so it's not being rolled out yet fully, but when it is, like no one's really safe. You're gonna have to like essentially start using it and use it as a tool. It'd be like someone that wants to like cut trees, and you've got a guy with like a small wooden axe versus a chainsaw. The dude with a chainsaw, even if he's not as good at cutting trees, is gonna probably cut a lot more trees down than a really good wood tree cutter that has an old wooden axe. And I think
So,
it's a tool. It's a very powerful tool.
it is a very powerful tool indeed. If you think about it, and I'm just thinking of the audience, what is it you'd tell, say, an agency leader who's is listening to this? So where do they start experimenting with AI? Because you've got to get in the game. It's obvious you've got to get in the game. How, for somebody who hasn't, how do you get in the game?
I mean, I would start simple. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to start
Mm.
because you can use it for program, you can use it for a lot of automation, but
Yeah.
as a simple owner, maybe start with email. Like train GPT to talk like you talk. So feed it, maybe just beyond email, feed it college papers you wrote, feed it like a lot of your writing, and then have it learn to write like you, and then you can have it then write reports for you, write emails for you. I would start maybe you start there because it's pretty easy to
Mm.
train AI. It's not anything technical. Hey, use less I don't like these run-on sentences, and it will memorize this and learn. If you make a custom GPT, it will keep that data as long as you save it, and so you can improve how it works. But essentially, it will be 90% of the way there if you just upload like all your old papers and all the old things you wrote in the last like 3 years, and it will get 90%. It'll match 90% of your voice. And I think right then you can essentially say, hey, here's my email. This client just wrote me like 3 paragraphs here, because sometimes I spend too much on emails thinking about the right thing. Am I being polite? And AI is very
Mm.
polite. But the last one, GPT-4 especially, was overly polite. And so I honestly love it to do my emails for me. I love especially big ones, but short, one times why I even bother, I write myself. But if it's a long, like page long email, I don't even read it. I like put it in ChatGPT and I read my response and then make sure it all flows. But I already know I'm going to GPT.
That impactful, and that makes a lot of sense. So you're talking about that the AI learning how you work. And just going a bit further than just for agencies and business,
Mhm.
how do you think AI can learn more about you?
I think there's a whole side of this. I know we're going to go into personal later, but I think you can make AI your therapist. I think you can make
Yeah.
AI like an advisor to your company. So I have an AI and I've got a GPT that's an advisor, and I kind of every month feed it the status, like the report, the monthly report we have internally. I feed into that and kind of say any suggestions, any of these problems you think you could solve. And so it's honestly like a really powerful advisor, someone that I would imagine you pay like $10,000 a month to advise. I think it is 90% that advisor.
And
I
it's
think it's
different for you.
really big in any business in that way. I think you should use it as an advisor because it's read almost the entire internet and it knows everyone else's inputs too. And so it's just its knowledge base is so big. Even if you hired, a consultant for $10,000 a month, it's not going to know as much as ChatGPT.
So true. And you mentioned, let's take it a bit further. It was Ray Kurzweil predicted that AI might match the human brain within like 10 years or a decade
Yeah.
or so. Is
Actually,
that
less than that, now
realistic?
less. It's 2029, so 4 years.
4 years now. Is that realistic? How do you envisage how AI and the brain are going to start interrelating more so?
Yeah, so when I first read this book, because I first heard this stuff, I knew he was a very famous guy because he had done the way that Siri works. He talked to Siri. He's the guy that figured out how to essentially turn voice into code, and so even like auto tune, like T-Pain, all of them
Mhm.
uses technology. And so I knew to take him seriously. But when I first heard this, like Living Forever, and some of these other things he was talking about, bringing back his dead dad from like this huge warehouse he has of all his old papers, and I think it sounds crazy, but I read his book and it was really good. And he essentially, this is before AI would exist, and so I don't know exactly where it's at, but my guess it's probably ahead. My guess it might be there in 3 years, maybe 2 years. Like, it's not saying that we'll do everything a human will do. Essentially, how human brains, sorry, someone's calling. Essentially how human brains work. Humans' brains work with a chemical reaction. My understanding, it's been a long time, but sodium potassium switches. It's a slow moving process, but we have multiple connections. So that allows humans to be more creative, let's say. We can tie two separate ideas and use dendrites to kind of fire off this chemical pattern to create really innovative ideas. I don't think computers are going to be like that anytime soon, even if they're as smart as a human. What they have is the speed of light. They can think very fast. They move at this, how the circuit boards work. They can think very quickly, but it's binary. It's yes, no, ones and zeros, where ours is there enough sodium potassium chemical reaction to hit the next neuron to
Mm.
fire? And so even if we got a computer to be has the same mental capacity as a human, we're gonna be different. The AI is different than a human. So we're gonna be better, more creative at certain things than the AI will be. But the issue will be a second predictor. A second predictor is by 2045, we'll have AI smarter than all mankind combined. And if that's the case, I don't think even our creativity will save us. That the AI will be more creative than
Yeah.
us at that point as well.
Isn't there a place where we could back ourselves up? Or
Yeah, so I think like kind of what Elon Musk said, that at some point AI is gonna be so powerful that you've got two choices. Either you are, if the AI is kind to us, you're gonna be essentially a glorified house cat. The AI will be very nice to you, feed you very well, put you in a nice house, but you're essentially
mm,
worthless in the economy. There's no role for you in this modern day economy if AI is really this intelligent. The only way to really be a part of the economy at that stage in AI's development would be to merge with it. And so people are going to be left with a choice. Either they merge and have a chip in their brain, or they are going to be we'll find them a very slow human, a very slow, dumb human that can't really participate in the economy.
yeah, and as you know, yeah, they're using chips and brains to do very many things already. So it's not a far
And Elon
step.
Musk is starting it. He's gone further. Elon Musk, tied back to Ray Kurzweil.
Mm.
I saw him on Joe Rogan, and Joe Rogan straight up asked him, "Could this back? Do you believe that your neural lace will eventually be able to, back you up, and you'll be able to make a new you and copy you based on that?" And Elon Musk said, "Yes." So Elon Musk is confident he's going to do it. He's going to be the one that's going to make us, essentially have a sense, a certain type of immortality.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. It really is going to be
Yeah, I'm
fascinating.
excited.
Yeah,
Scary but excited.
it's scary but exciting. I really do appreciate you giving us your point of view. If people want to know more, how can they connect with you? Where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, so I have my website, ruskinconsulting.com. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm fairly out there, but probably the best way be on my website, and then you can message me directly. You can also email me, Joshua Ruskin at ruskinconsulting.com. And I'm definitely down to entertain, especially as kind as you and as interesting as you. Anyone that wants to talk about this stuff with me or talk about marketing in general, I'm all ears and glad to help.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And
Thank
you've
you.
given us a lot to think about.
Great interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.